History is full of defining moments when seemingly impossible challenges have been overcome by sheer human will and determination. No one old enough will never forget hearing Neil Armstrong's words as he set foot on the surface of the moon. This is one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. Today, the technology industry is confronting a challenge that in some ways is even more daunting than that faced by NASA during the lunar landings. Bringing the profound benefits of technology access, particularly access to the internet, to millions of people around the world. Fortunately, there are people working hard to do just that. Today, we are honored to have two extraordinary women with us who embody the spirit, commitment, and drive required to achieve the 50 by 15 goal. Each woman is working to better the next generation through education. Our first guest resides in Austin and is leading an institution that serves the educational needs of students living in challenging personal circumstances. Please welcome Vicki Baldwin, principal of Garza High School.
Thank you, John. Thank you.
Our other distinguished guest has traveled a very long way to be with us. She too is also a principal of a unique institution. Every day she struggles against a history of poverty and political turmoil. Joining us from the outskirts of Johannesburg, South Africa, please welcome Veronica Habo, principal of Diepsloot Combined School. And ladies, welcome to our program, and thank you so much for making time available. I know that you've been spending some time together, and I've heard from your host that you've made many points of connection, and we hope to explore those and also explore the divergent paths these schools might be on. But I'd like to learn about the communities that you serve and the children who you're serving to begin. If you would, Veronica, tell us about the children at Diepsloot Combined School.
Okay, Diepsloot Combined School is just 5 years old, new school. I was asked by the Department of Education, saying our government, to establish the school. And right now we have admitted 1,530 children from the ages of 5 until 22, 23. And Diepsloot is an informal settlement, what you call shanty towns here. And it's got almost 500,000 inhabitants.
500,000 people.
Yes, and between 78 to 90% of the parents are unemployed. Sad to say that children don't come from functional families. So most of them, or let me say the majority of them, are from dysfunctional families. And it's never heard of to have both parents with you. It's either a single parent or you've got grandparents or extended relatives looking after you. So as a school, we are faced with challenges of meeting the needs of the children physically, socially, spiritually, emotionally, as well as academically. So we are a very unique school.
And I understand that you really try to make the school an oasis for the children, a place of calm and a place where they can really feel safe and can escape to.
Exactly. In that kind of environment, how do you teach a child who just lost a parent, or who just experienced abuse, or who witnessed somebody being killed or hijacked? You first have to meet the needs of a child. In South Africa, we've got a saying that Batupili or Banapili, which means before you can see a learner, see that learner as an individual and treat him or her in a humane manner. And we are trying very hard to restore the children's confidence and self-esteem. And thus, the teachers who work at my school are not just ordinary teachers. They have to be multi-skilled teachers to deal with the challenges or the barriers which children encounter on a daily basis.
Right, I would imagine so, and I'm sure they confront many challenges. Sure. Vicki, tell us about the children at your school, and also I understand it's a very different kind of educational institution.
It is indeed. Garza High School has been in existence 8 years. It was, the original idea was to provide a high school for juniors and seniors that broke the traditional barriers of high school. And the superintendent at that time asked me to design and create an environment that would do that. And I told him, I don't know anything about high school. I've been in middle school for years. And he said, good. And there was such wisdom to that. I didn't know at the time. So if you go in with no preconceived ideas and you simply work from your heart, and I know Veronica does that,
Yes, exactly.
and she has said some key words, although I don't have the degree of poverty that Veronica deals with. All the other circumstances that she's referring to, I deal with also. And I am a school of choice, so students choose to come to Garza. They provide their own transportation, and we have a cross-section of what Austin looks like, all the way from very disenfranchised, almost all the students are disenfranchised, and they may have parents who are university professors or parents who are in prison, and so we have approached it with what's in the best interest of that child who has been forced into living an adult life. And I have no control over that, just like Veronica said. I can't change their parents, their living situations, their economics, but I can make sure that coming to Garza High School is a haven, and it is an oasis. And as she mentioned, it has to be authentic. It must be real. For the kids that I have, ages 15 up to 21, they're pretty savvy. And they're somewhat jaded even. So
As American students tend to be.
that's absolutely correct. And so you can't be a phony. You have to have a real, nurturing, caring, not just touchy-feely. You've got to have a strong curriculum
I
base,
fully agree.
providing confidence.
Now the focus of our program is looking at integrating technology
Right.
into the schools. And I'm sure you're at very different places. I would assume that here in Austin, home of technology, that you have access to a lot of technology. Veronica, where are you in your school right now in terms of incorporating technology and access to the internet, those kinds of things for your children?
You know, it's a real shame that we are in the same century, but still many years apart in technology. I walked into Vicky's school, and I was told that the school is very different, dealing with the dejected and rejected learners. And I thought, wow, I never even dreamt of having such technology in my school. We are very far behind. The last time, 5 years ago, when we started, we hardly had a computer. Then we got second-hand computers from individuals for administrative purposes. And of course, a company in South Africa then built us a computer room. And they wanted to furnish it too. And they furnished it with second-hand computers. You know, from no computer to second-hand computer was like being given a limousine. And everybody just wanted to have their hands on that, both learners and teachers. And it took us almost a whole year to just get acquainted to the idea that we at least have a computer laboratory. And I won't say the standard is what you have here. Then we asked the department to employ a teacher to teach computer studies. Now, you use computers on a daily basis. And to me, that teacher was like a diamond. We valued her because she was the only one who had the knowledge of IT. And she taught the teachers first, helped to teach the teachers some basics. Some teachers who were willing to come forward and say, you know what, we need to know that. And started teaching the learners. But unfortunately, 40 computers are not enough for 1,500 children.
No, I would not think so.
And we had to come up with a strategy. Who is going to use the computers among the 1,500 children? So we decided on the last 3 grades of the school, the 10th grade up to the 12th grade. And we made computer studies an examinable subject. But from what you're hearing, not using computers to teach, but just gaining the skills of computers.
It sounds like Veronica's facing a very particular kind of hurdle, which is just having the equipment and having people with their hands on the equipment. In this country, I would think that there are very different kinds of challenges in terms of integrating technology. And I would think access is not so much the issue, but maybe comfort level for the teachers might be an issue. Did you find that to be true?
Initially.
Yeah.
Initially. But before we opened, I insisted that the school, the physical plant, which was an abandoned 1939 old elementary school, and they were pouring about $1 million into it to renovate the windows and the air conditioning. And I said, I won't step foot in it unless it's wired. Oh, well, you're not on the list. I mean, it was like, you're way down the list. And I said, I will not step foot. You have to be tenacious about getting resources. And I do not apologize for the fact that my school probably has more technology per pupil than probably any of the schools in Austin. That gives, my job is to give kids a leg up. And I know Veronica and I have talked about that. And that's exactly the goal of technology, the use of technology, because you can become a person that can access information that will provide a quality of life or better life for you if you know how to use technology. And because they'll be out of school pretty soon.
Right.
But they still need those tools.
You know, we talk about a digital divide in our
Yes.
own culture, and I've seen reports, some people say that's closing, but you serve a community that you have already described. It comes with many disadvantages.
Right.
Are those children coming to school like so many of the other kids that we hear about who know more about the computers than the teachers do?
I have many students like that, but I have more students that do not have a computer at home. When I first opened, the majority of students had never put their hands on a computer, and that was 8 years ago. Students leaving Garza, exiting, are very proficient and is a lifelong skill.
Let's talk about what your ideals are for your particular school. Right now you have a lab. Is it the goal to get those computers, more computers, and have them dispersed into all the classrooms? Do you see that as being a viable option for you?
Not really. When we talk such technology, we talk money. And unfortunately, our new government has got different challenges, which is faced up with on a daily basis, that giving computers to each learner in the school is a luxury, would be considered a luxury. So obviously that's when we look at other options. Are there individuals or the corporates out there who are willing to help us, hold our hand and say, you know what, we'll help you. We have a computer lab, but I'm saying to you, it's of inferior quality. And we have had second-hand computers, and they kept breaking up most of the time. And unknowingly discarding the old computers, the learners used to pick them and take them home. And they came back to their own computer lab and stole parts from the computers they were supposed to be taught with to go and rebuild the old computers which I had discarded at their homes. So it became a real problem, because we had time and again asked for assistance to refurnish, rebuild our computers or to substitute them. And that's when somebody introduced a company, which happens to be a company in Austin, AMD, who came to our rescue and brought in the PICs.
Now tell me what those are.
A PIC is like a small device. It can fit in an ordinary handbag. It's very compact, and it's a personal internet communicator, which replaces the ordinary tower or the CPU or of a computer. And not only did it save us, but it also saves space, because the towers take a lot of space, in the computer room. So the small PICs they took just a few hours to install them in my computer lab, and children try to push them, some were dropping them down, but they don't break. That's how compact they are. The other challenge was, I'm in a dusty area. We don't have trees, no vegetation at all. So the other concern was most of the dust was damaging the computers. So we didn't have money to maintain that. And the PIC came also as a lifesaver, because you cannot, it doesn't accumulate dust at all. So a maintenance problem off my shoulders, dust accumulation off my shoulders, and assurance that the children will have access to internet.
Which is like having all of the encyclopedias of the world.
Exactly.
That are updated.
Yes, all the time, yeah.
That's right.
So it became very exciting for the computer studies teacher. And to me, it was like, thank God for coming in and saving us, so I don't have to worry about that. So, and then last year, October, we had our first grade 12 examinations. That's a national examination which every school leaver has to write before entering college or university. And we used the PICS for the first time. And I remember I was concerned about power failure or, you know, the server going off, and that didn't happen. They wrote a 3-hour exams with it, and yeah, it was a success.
That's terrific. Now,
Yes.
tell us about how you've integrated. You've described that you have a high level of technology in your schools. What is working best for you in terms of getting the kids on the computers and integrating them into the curriculum?
Well, actually, we've written the curriculum. The curriculum used at Garza, 98% has been written by our teachers based on the Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills. And there are variations of each, for instance, world history. And one may be project-based, one may be more textbook-based, one may be alluding to different learning styles. But for instance, they need to be able to have access to a computer to do research, and many times to find the answers themselves. And each classroom has a minimum of 7 computers. We've added from that digital cameras and other equipment for them to work on projects at a much higher level. And it comes more naturally to a 15, 16-year-old than it does a 60-year-old. And you know, some of us fought the metric system and won, but technology's not going away. And you do not have to be a technical expert in technology to understand its importance.
Sure.
And the fact that if you really care about your students, you will do everything you can to fight for
I agree.
them having access to a decent life.
Yes.
Tell me the difference it's made in the lives of the children who have had this access. What have you seen change in some of these young lives?
As I said, we have 1,500 children in the school, and only 300 of the 1,500 have access to the computers. So all the lower grades wants to pass to the next grade so as to get access into the computer labs. And what did I see? Discipline in the school, because they know that if they're ill-disciplined, they're going to be expelled. Or they won't manage to go to the next class. Rate of absenteeism has also dropped. Everybody wants to come to school. And delinquency, because they know that as soon as they are charged with misconduct, they will not be allowed. Part of the thing is you won't be allowed for a certain time into the computer room. So that's how it has changed. But on a more serious note, what happens for the black child in South Africa is you pass your matric, you have to go to college or university. Arriving there, everything is computerized. How do you cope at college or university without computer skills? The lecturer's notes are all online. How do you access that? So already the child is doomed for failure. So what it has done for my child at school is, those who are fortunate enough to have financial assistance, as I said, the parents are unemployed. Those who have financial assistance and can go into universities or colleges, they already have something positive on their side, something which will work for them, the computer skills they need. And those who have to access the job world, employment world, and it needs computer skills, they already have that. So that's a plus for our children in that regard. And I found that the higher grades, I had children who used to drop out of school, but because of that computer lab, they all want to be there, they all want to write an exam, they all want to pass that.
That is a beautiful illustration of, I think, the carrot aspect of technology.
Maybe also to further explain that, to me, I regard having computer skills as having a driver's license. When you have a driver's license, you can drive yourself into different vistas. And if you don't have a driver's license, you remain a passenger for the rest of your life. To me, computer skills is not just a door opener for my children, but it's also a lifesaver. and it will help them to break the shackles of poverty, to get out of that squalor environment they grew up in.
Well, that's a very powerful story. Now, Vicki, in your school, I would imagine that there are different kinds of, the way that children interact with the technology is going to vary very differently. You have that access. You can't really use it as kind of a carrot in a sense, and perhaps you do. But it seems to me that there are certain children who are having access to technology really makes all the difference in the world to them in terms of how they respond to the lessons. Many children do not respond very well to the standard,
That's right.
Here's the teacher, there's the lesson, you learn.
Right.
They have to do it on their own.
Right. At Garza, there is no direct teach. It's all individualized. It's like each student gets a syllabus for that course. And then they start working on it independently, but there's always a teacher there whom we call facilitator to help facilitate their learning. And this is such a revolutionary idea because we're still warehousing kids in high school. It's certainly more cost effective. And 30 kids in class, and each kid has to be on the same page, same day, same way, take the same test.
I remember.
Yes. Well, it
We all
hasn't
do.
changed, except at Garza. And what that does is so many of my kids, for whatever reasons, have been disenfranchised from the school system. And when they come to Garza, they have a fresh start, new beginning, no baggage. And so they go into classes, and they often will tell me, particularly through computer usage, I always thought I was smart, but I lost it along the way. And so we help them recover their souls and their intelligence. And Veronica and I have talked about how important it is in both of our schools to restore confidence and to assist in self-esteem. Otherwise, you're not going to the next plateau.
No, you won't.
And that is the way that we approach it. And some students don't necessarily like computer work. I mean, not all kids just say, "Oh, please, let me."
Sure.
But they are getting in contact with what their learning style is, which is a lifelong skill. You're not going to waste that time in college or at the next step. And then many of my students didn't think they would get a high school diploma, much less go on to college. And I had 80% last year requesting a college transcript. So you've gone from no hope to a sense of destiny.
Wow.
And I think technology is a large part. It is not the biggest, because relationship with the adults, to me, is the most important.
Exactly.
But you've got to have that counterpart, curriculum and challenge. And that's where access to technology comes in.
Some people may look at technology in the classroom, and I don't know folks necessarily who have this perspective, but you might hear it out there, who worry that the kids aren't really learning their lessons. They're learning how to manipulate the computers. They're learning about technology, but they're not really learning about the content. The kids are supposed to, the reading, writing, arithmetic things.
But it also, you can't go to the computer if you can't read.
Yeah.
And most of mine use it in word processing to improve their writing skills. Kids that exit Garza, I've never seen such writing capabilities, and I was a pretty good writer myself. But you can't, it's almost impossible to get through English 1, 2, 3, and 4, and the other courses that require a great deal of writing.
Do you find that it takes a great deal of time to instruct the students, or do they just take to it naturally?
They take to it naturally. It comes naturally for learners. We struggle as adults, but it's like they were born with it and born in it.
Right.
And I just want to say that there's no way that technology will take the place of a soul. The soul needs to be there to nurture, to teach, to guide, and to lead a child. And technology is there to enhance the teaching and the learning. So we'll still have both. So people should not fear that technology will take over.
Right.
A human being. A human being is still there and still needed.
we're at the end of our time, or close to it, and I wanted to ask one last question of each of you, and that is about where you would like to be and where you would like your students to be in regards to technology in the coming years. The goal for the program that is sponsored by AMD says 2015, half the people of the planet having access to the internet. That's a very ambitious goal. Let's talk about your own personal goals and how they mesh with that. And if you don't mind, Veronica, let's start with you.
I'd like to see in Deep Slot Combined School every single teacher being more than computer literate, being a computer guru if it's possible. And because right now we find that children know more than the teacher, and it puts the teacher in a vulnerable position. So I'd like to see teachers being trained to use the computers not only for themselves, but to enhance their teaching and learning. That's where I want to see our school being.
All right. And Vicki?
At Garza, it's impossible to graduate from Garza without being computer literate. And so I would hope that we could keep up to date, because that is a challenge, because it's changing so quickly, and kids don't want outdated
Last year's
equipment.
game.
No, they don't. Yeah. And so it's my job. I don't have to know all the details. Mm-hmm. I simply need to know what they need, and I turn that over to the experts, the teachers and the kids. And the kids will say, you know, Ms. Baldwin, we really need more digital cameras for our projects or this or that. And I just take notes and make sure that it's done. That's really the challenge. I think the thing that we don't understand in Austin is there are lots of people that do not have computers in their homes. Yeah. And my students are in the process of looking at and analyzing how we can make those PICs spread out in the community. And when you would participate in a discussion with them, their first thoughts are not, oh, I want it, but their first thoughts are, well, let's look at where the need really is. We want to make sure that the community, you know, and people in greatest need. And so they have great hearts. And I think that's our hope. And my hope is that I can keep up with them and provide them with the resources they need.
Well, speaking of keeping up with, I think that folks, wherever they are in the world of education, would have a hard time keeping up with you ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for
you.
Being with us today. It's been a
My
real
pleasure.
and an honor. You also use the phrase taking notes, and I hope that some of the educators in our audience are taking notes. Thank you for
Thank
being
you.
part of our program.
Thank you. It's kind of you to have us.